Branches of sky. May had never liked new places. Her old town may have been dull and quiet, but it was familiar. Predictable. She knew which cracks in the sidewalk would trip her up, which days the neighbor's dog would bark all afternoon, and how her own little world worked, silent, steady, and just for her. She didn't have any friends there, but at least she understood the rules. "The move is a fresh start," said May's mom as they packed. "You haven't really found your people here. Maybe a new place will feel better." May said nothing, just clutched the hem of her hoodie and stared out the window. She didn't want new. "It'll be good for her," chimed in her cousin Leo, who had come to help pack. New house, new school. She might actually talk to people. May's mom gave him a warning look, but said gently, "May, I think you'll really like the backyard. We'll plant a garden. You might even make a friend or two." May burst. "I won't. I don't want to leave, I don't need new friends." Surprised, they fell quiet as May ran up to her room, quietly closed the door, and curled up on the bed, trying not to cry too loud. Her room looked just like it had since she was a child, the same faded posters, same crooked lamp. The girls at her old school had never understood her. They talked about makeup and crushes, and May couldn't find herself in those conversations. Once, she'd said she liked a character in a book, and someone had joked, "Is that your boyfriend?" She didn't know what to say. He wasn't. But he wasn't the point either. She hadn't thought of boys like that. Not ever. When the car pulled away from the driveway for the last time, May didn't look back. But inside, she stored every detail: the chipped mailbox, the crooked fence. Like puzzle pieces she'd never quite fit into. The new house was bigger. The backyard had a towering tree outside May's new window. She unpacked quickly, placing every item in the exact same spot as before, preserving the illusion that nothing had changed. That night, at dinner, her mom brought up the new school again. "They say it's one of the friendliest in the county," she said, cutting into her sandwich. "You might find people who like the same books you do." "I doubt it," May muttered, peeling the crust from her bread. Her mom glanced at her. "I just want you to feel like you belong somewhere." "I don't need to belong." May's cousin, mouth full, mumbled, "You'll never belong if you act like a ghost." May didn't answer. She didn't know how to fit in with other girls. And she definitely didn't want to pretend to like boys just to make friends. Later that evening, after her mom fixed the squeaky door, May climbed the tree by her window and perched herself where she could just see the horizon. It calmed her. The sky didn't care if she was strange or quiet or didn't wear sparkly dresses. The sky was just there. That's where she was the next day, watching the sunset, when a voice called out from the path. "Hey! You're new here, right?" May almost lost her grip. A girl about her age stood at the fence, waving. Her hair shimmered in the light, and she wore a sweatshirt 2 sizes too big and the brightest grin May had ever seen. "I just moved here too, 2 months ago," the girl said. "I'm Ellie." May froze. Words stuck in her throat. "I hope we have classes together," Ellie continued, brushing hair from her face. "You seem cool. What's your name?" May managed a whisper, "May." Ellie smiled even wider. "Nice to meet you, May. You want to hang out sometime? That tree looks amazing." Without thinking, May climbed down, heart pounding. But by the time she reached the ground, Ellie had already walked off with her younger sister, laughing as they skipped down the path. "She talked to me," May whispered. That night, she barely slept. Days passed. At school, May spotted Ellie in the hallway, waving at her through a crowd. And slowly, very slowly, May began to wave back. They didn't talk about boys. They talked about books, trees, sunsets. Ellie told May she liked her quietness. Said it made things feel less noisy. May didn't understand what was happening at first. But she started to feel something warm and unfamiliar when Ellie smiled at her. It wasn't loud or dramatic. It was soft. Like wind through leaves. Like breath before a kiss. Maybe she wasn't broken. Maybe she just hadn't met the right kind of someone yet. And maybe, just maybe, this new place wasn't so bad after all. Let me know if you'd like a sequel, or we can follow May and Ellie into high school. Part 2, The Quiet Between Us. May had never waited for someone before, not really. But each morning now, her eyes flicked up the hallway, scanning for Ellie. She didn't even realize she was smiling until Ellie caught her eye and jogged over. "Hey, tree girl," Ellie teased. "Climbed any rooftops lately?" May flushed. "Just branches." They walked together to homeroom, and even though they were surrounded by lockers slamming and announcements blaring, May felt like they were wrapped in their own quiet. They started having lunch in the courtyard, on the stone bench near the science wing. Ellie brought sour gummies. May brought shortbread cookies. They traded every day. "I like your laugh," Ellie said one day. "It's rare, but when it shows up, it's like proof. Like spring." May stared at her cookie. "You say things like you're writing a poem." "Maybe I am." Ellie leaned closer. "You inspire good lines." May's stomach fluttered. She didn't have the words for what she was feeling. She just knew she didn't want Ellie to stop saying those things. One chilly Saturday in October, Ellie invited May to the fall fair. It was small-town classic: hay bales, kettle corn, pumpkin painting, and a Ferris wheel that looked too old to trust but charming anyway. Ellie wore a scarf that kept slipping off, and May gently looped it back around her neck. "You're so gentle," Ellie whispered. "Do you even know?" May didn't answer. But she held Ellie's hand as they stepped onto the Ferris wheel, heart pounding with something that wasn't fear. As they rose above the fairgrounds, Ellie turned to her. "Do you like anyone?" May's voice was barely audible. "I think I do." Ellie leaned her head against May's shoulder. "Me too." The ride kept turning. They didn't need to say it yet. The quiet between them was enough. For now. Would you like to see what happens when they tell their families or take their first trip together? Part 3, The Sky We Promised. Thanksgiving break came early that year. The air smelled like cinnamon and chimney smoke. May had never brought anyone home before, but this time, she asked. Ellie stood on May's porch, a little unsure in her corduroy jacket and borrowed boots. May's dad opened the door. "You must be the one she never shuts up about," he said with a warm grin. May turned crimson. Ellie smiled. "Guilty." That evening, they played cards with May's little brother, roasted marshmallows on the stove, and watched old VHS tapes of May in ballet recitals. "She was terrible," her dad whispered to Ellie. "Still is," May mumbled, holding back a laugh. Later, when the house had gone still, Ellie and May lay under a heap of blankets in May's room. The glow-in-the-dark stars on the ceiling flickered faintly. "Do you think this," Ellie began, "will last?" May turned toward her. "It doesn't feel like a maybe to me." "You?" Ellie hesitated, then smiled. "No. It feels like, when the sky's so big it makes you quiet." May reached for her hand beneath the covers. "Let's not be afraid," she said. "Of this. Of us." Ellie squeezed her fingers. "Deal." The next morning, they watched the sun rise from the back porch, wrapped in the same blanket, steam rising from their cocoa mugs. May whispered, "You're the branch I didn't know I was reaching for." Ellie leaned her head on May's. "And you're the sky I never thought would open." Want to jump ahead to prom night or maybe a summer road trip before college? Final part, North of Everything. Prom night came like a glittery dream. Ellie wore a silver dress that caught the moonlight. May had on a suit that made Ellie's knees weak. They danced slow, far from the crowd, on the tennis courts behind the gym where no one could see them kiss. "I don't want this to end," May said. "It doesn't have to," Ellie whispered, but they both knew what loomed: graduation, 2 different colleges, hours apart. Life pulling in opposite directions. That summer, they made a pact. We meet in Alaska, Ellie said, drawing a little star on the map pinned to May's bedroom wall. After college. No matter what. May nodded. Even if we're different by then? Especially if we are. They kissed on it. Years passed. They stayed in touch at first, texts, blurry photos, voice memos half-sobbed into at midnight. Then less. Then none. May joined protests in Seattle. Ellie interned for wildlife rehab centers in Montana. Each grew stronger, braver, and further apart. The map on May's wall stayed, though. So did the star. 5 years later, May landed in Anchorage with a backpack and a heart pounding so loud it made her dizzy. She had no guarantee Ellie would be there. But on the wooden bench overlooking the water, wrapped in a navy scarf and holding 2 hot chocolates, sat Ellie. You made it, May breathed. You waited, Ellie smiled. They didn't rush. Didn't kiss right away. Just sat there, watching the gulls dive into the sea. Ellie spoke first. I loved you then. I never stopped. But I'm not that girl anymore. May turned to her. I didn't come here to meet the girl I knew. I came to meet the woman you became. Ellie laughed, the same laugh that used to echo through dorm halls. Then let's begin again. Somewhere north of everything. And they did. Not the same. But better. The kind of love that's not afraid to leave, because it knows how to return. The end.